Throughout Gumball's history, we have seen many couples featured in the show. However, not all of them have the best chemistry. And today, I'm going to be going over the 5 best and 5 worst couples in Gumball. Starting off with probably one of the most adored couples in the show, and one of the longest lasting ones too, which is none other than Richard and Nicole Watterson. Now, Richard and Nicole have been seen to be a very unique couple throughout the show's lifespan for multiple reasons. Starting off with the fact that at a first glance, people would most likely think that Nicole and Richard's relationship is dysfunctional. However, it's actually the complete opposite. Obviously, Nicole and Richard are 2 very different people, but that doesn't stop them from loving each other, which is what makes them such a good couple. We see a good example of this in Season 2, Episode 5, The Treasure. And in this episode, we see Gumball, Darwin, and Anaise notice that they've been having cheap variants of everything around the house for a while. So they decide to start doing some digging and end up discovering that a long time ago, a $24,000 charge was made to a company named Stellar Corporation, which is ultimately what made the family go cheap mode. And at the end of the episode, we find out that it was Richard who made this transaction, and he admits to buying a whole star, which was a clear scam. But in between all of this, Richard discovers that Nicole has always known about this, and while most couples would have flipped over this, Nicole forgave Richard, which just goes to show how good their dynamic is.
You knew? But how?
You talk in your sleep.
And you don't hate me?
I knew you tried to do well. It wasn't your fault, honey. It was the internet.
Along with all of this, we learn more about their backstory in the episode The Choices, where we learn how Nicole met Richard at a park and how she eventually accepts him. Then after, we see more flashbacks of how cute they were with each other back in the day, and even helps us see how Nicole's parents originally didn't accept Richard, which led Nicole to move out, and Richard would also leave his parents, but in a worse way, as he would actually get kicked out, which led him and Nicole to live in a small apartment for many years. And then they eventually had Gumball. Now, this episode alone really shows the sentimental value in their relationship, and why they're such a good couple despite their differences, which is why they're so loved. Yes, they are good parents, good partners, and good people. They are my favorite cartoon parents. I want what Richard and Nicole have so bad. But now that we're on the topic of Nicole, let's talk about a relationship that's the opposite to Nicole and Richard's, which is Daniel and Mary's relationship, aka Nicole's parents. Now, Nicole's parents definitely didn't have the same outcome that Richard and Nicole did, as in the few times we saw them appear in Gumball, it was clear that their relationship feels forced rather than actual love. In the episode The Parents, we would see Nicole reunite with Daniel and Mary right off the bat, and we would see them in a horrible mood with each other, which even Gumball would notice, and he would stupidly proceed to crack a horrible joke, which erupted a huge argument between Daniel, Mary, and Nicole.
Hey, how about a joke? I like my coffee the way I like jokes about the way I like my coffee. I don't. Wow, that's the second worst that joke ever went down.
It's not you, son. They just blame each other for what happened between them.
And after this, we would really get more insight on how they were as parents to Nicole, which led us to find out that they literally messed Nicole and Richard's wedding up because they saw RSVP on the invite, and they thought that the wedding was taking place in a town called RSVP. But let's be honest, they most likely just missed it on purpose, as they didn't really like Richard. But overall, their parenting was never good, and their relationship actually seems dysfunctional, which is why they secured a spot in the worst category. But let's take a break from the adults and talk about the children on the show, which brings us to our next relationship that is one of the best and most iconic in the show, which of course is Gumball and Penny. Now, this relationship dates back all the way to the first season, which started out as a simple 2-way crush. However, in the episode The Shell, we see Gumball and Penny's relationship really take a turn for good, as we would see Penny's shell crack in this episode, which revealed her true self. And later in the episode, we would see the very wholesome moment where Gumball and Penny finally kissed.
That's not what you are. It's just how you feel. And this is how I feel.
And this episode really solidified their relationship, and was honestly deserved from the both of them, as we were able to see how much Gumball really loved Penny from the beginning, such as in the episode The Dream, where Gumball would see Darwin kiss Penny in a dream, and for most of the episode, he would think that it was real and be mad at Darwin, but overall, letting everything that we just talked about sink in, it's a no-brainer that Gumball and Penny are one of the best couples on the show. However, the relationship between Billy and Anaise didn't end in a good way, unlike Gumball and Penny's relationship. We would first see Billy and Anaise become sort of a thing in the episode The Egg, where we would see Nicole set up a playdate with Anaise and Billy. During this playdate, Anaise would really get to know Billy and realize that he's actually pretty smart and sort of has an ego, and eventually they would both spark interest in each other. Now, while this may sound like a good relationship so far, it ends real quick, as in the end of the episode, we would see them genuinely connecting and have a nerd off going over their interests. However, Anaise would proceed to mention Daisy, and this would cause Billy to reveal that he doesn't like Daisy.
Daisy the donkey!
In an ironic way, of course.
What? No, I love Daisy.
Oh, I'm Daisy, the incarnation of the dumbing down of a whole nation of children while cashing in on merchandising.
Well, what show do you watch?
Fireman Pete, of course.
Sorry, Billy, but that's a deal breaker.
So yeah, this is quite the weird and quick ending for Anaise and Billy's relationship, which easily makes this one of the worst couples in the show. But by now, we've talked about Gumball and Anaise's relationships. However, we can't forget about my boy Darwin, which brings us to our next good relationship, which is none other than Darwin and Carrie. Now, just like Gumball and Penny, Darwin and Carrie are still a strong couple to this day, and their romance dates all the way back to the Halloween episode in season 2, where we would see a scene where Carrie gives Gumball and Darwin the opportunity to turn into ghosts. And upon seeing them do this, Darwin makes a huge move by going in for a kiss with Carrie, which left her fully blushing and speechless.
Look what you've done! You've completely turned into ghosts! Which means I can finally do this!
Now, this was clearly crazy to see for a first-time viewer, and honestly, we have to give props to Darwin, as it takes some bravery to do that out of the blue. However, after this, we wouldn't really see much from Darwin and Carrie up until season 5 during the episode The Matchmaker, where we would see Carrie confess her feelings towards Darwin, giving us hands down one of the cutest moments in the show's history, as seeing one of the most humble characters in the show succeed in a relationship is always amazing to see.
Hey, so would you like to go out somewhere sometime and do something? Or we could go somewhere else sometime and do some other thing.
They both sound great. I can still see, but I don't mind.
This solidifies them as one of the most loved couples in the show, and has even led people to give the couple a nickname, which is Carwin. However, while this relationship between them is nice and all, there's no better time than right now than to talk about Darwin's other relationship in the show that's on more of the bad side, which is the couple of Darwin and Jaime. Now, this couple was one that was short-lived. However, the short period of them dating was pure torture, and this would all happen in the episode The Girlfriend, when Jaime sees Alan sharing his soup with Carmen at lunch. And after seeing this and being told that she has an empty heart, Jaime realizes that she needs a boyfriend ASAP. Later in the episode, we see Jaime riding a bus in her zoned out mode. However, she ends up breaking out of it, and right after this, the whole bus proceeds to explode, which causes everyone to escape her except for Darwin, causing her to fall in love. Now, this whole interaction causes them to become a couple. However, Darwin didn't even realize this until Gumball talks some sense into them at home and explained what really happened. But Darwin, obviously fearing Jaime, decided to stick with it and say nothing. But let's just say that Darwin definitely regretted this, as once they got to school the next day, Jaime rudely pushes Gumball into his locker and then proceeds to threaten Darwin with multiple things if he were to break up with her or cause any other conflict in the relationship.
But it'd still keep most people away.
Okay, rule 1. If you ignore me or break up with me, there will be serious consequences involving you, me, a spoon, and a salt shaker.
So yeah, this was already bad. But later in the episode, Jaime proceeds to get mad at Darwin for hanging out with Gumball, as she claims that Gumball is her boyfriend too. And after this disaster erupted, we saw Jaime trying to get with Gumball after. Then once everything stops, Darwin comes in and gets punched by Jaime, ending everything for good. Now, this relationship was obviously pure and utter trash, and many fans not liking Jaime as a character in the first place doesn't help the situation. So overall, this relationship is one of the worst in the show. This is the only episode of the show I've never watched because I refuse to watch it. This episode is an abomination, and this is why I would leave the school if I knew Jaime. But Carmen and Alan, on the other hand, are quite the opposite of a horrible couple, and they are probably one of the sweetest couples in the show. Now, this couple has never actually had an episode, or let alone a segment where they become a couple. However, they become a couple somewhere between the episodes The Party and The Storm off screen, but that fact doesn't change how good of a couple they are, as we would see this really early on in The Storm, where we see them talking to each other in a really wholesome way in the beginning of the episode, which alone shows how good of a couple they really are. After this, people start to not like them due to them being so perfect, and later in the episode, we see Gumball get hit with a basketball, which causes him to land on Carmen's face, and unfortunately, Alan saw all of it, and this would cause Alan and Carmen to break up, which leads Masami to try to get with Alan. But none of this is enough to stop the picture-perfect couple, as in the end, we see Alan declare his true love for Carmen, which causes Masami to finally leave Alan alone, and this right here started the perfect relationship in the show.
Masami, a broken heart is like a mirror. It's better to leave it broken than to hurt yourself trying to fix it.
You are such a wet cheese ball.
If Alan was a cheese ball,
I'd want seconds.
I love you, Carmen.
I love you, Alan.
Clearly, this beautiful ending to the episode was the beginning of a long-lasting relationship, which is always nice to see. However, the couple that involves Miss Simeon and Principal Brown is probably one of the worst couples in the show, but for a very different reason. Now, as we all know, this couple is typically affectionate towards each other and doesn't really argue or have conflicts, so on paper, this couple should be in the best category, right? Well, there's actually a few reasons why they're in the bad category. The first reason being that the fans don't really like this couple. This is because both of these characters aren't really the most liked in the show due to how they act towards Gumball and Darwin, and also seeing them kiss is not what we want to see as the audience watching the show. But while this reason is valid in a way, this couple also has had complications and isn't always picture perfect, as in the episode The Wish, we see Principal Brown drive Miss Simeon to the edge of a cliff for a date, and during the scene, we see Miss Simeon try to get Principal Brown to say 3 magic words that couples say to each other, but unfortunately, Principal Brown wasn't able to.
Oh, Miss.
It's the perfect evening to say those 3 little words to show how much you care about me.
Oh, 3 little words, hey. Heart breaks off.
Now, if you haven't already pieced everything together, Miss Simeon wanted Principal Brown to say, "I love you" to her. However, Principal Brown just couldn't say it. And for the rest of the episode, we would see Miss Simeon's feelings actually come out for once, and would decide to leave town due to all of this. And like usual, Gumball and Darwin would step in to try to help Principal Brown practice by saying, "I love you" to Miss Simeon's neck pillow. And in the end, they find her leaving town. And here's Principal Brown saying, "I love you," which causes her to make up with Principal Brown. But while this seems like a happy ending, the relationship would take a turn for the worst in the final episode of season 6, The Inquisition. In this episode, we see Miss Simeon fall in love with the new superintendent, which causes her and Principal Brown to break up. However, in the end, the superintendent turned out to be Rob, which made everything worse. And this very episode solidified the end of the relationship, hence why this is easily in the bad section. But on the flip side, a couple that has had way less complications and is actually liked by fans is the couple of Granny Jojo and Louie. We would first see this couple introduced in The Man, where we see Louie come over for Granny Jojo's 63rd birthday, and they end up revealing to the Wattersons that her and Louie are now dating, which Richard isn't really a fan of.
No, fine, I'll do it myself. Where did you retire from? Santa's factory? Because you're small? Why did you steal my mom?
Now, this was already not the best start of a beautiful relationship, but we dive further in the signature, where we can see the Wattersons get the news that Granny Jojo and Louie are getting married, which obviously causes Richard to lose it, and starts trying to find out ways to stop the wedding. And out of everything, Richard gets the stupid idea to adopt Louie, so that Louie can be his son and stop him from marrying Granny Jojo. And while Richard actually made this work by tricking him into signing it, things get a lot worse as Louie wants payback, so he decides to also sneak adoption papers and gets Nicole to sign them, which makes Nicole his daughter.
Thank you. Aha! These adoption forms now make you my daughter. And if I'm not allowed to see Jojo, then I forbid you to see Richard. Boom!
Now, all of these cause there to be huge confusion on who was really in the family. And to fix this, Gumball, Darwin, and Anaise found Frankie Watterson, which is Richard's dad, and tried to get him to sign adoption papers for Richard. However, Frankie tricked Richard and made him sign a deed to the house so Frankie can own it. And all of this caused disaster and made everyone realize that the only way to stop this is if Louie and Jojo got married, as Louie would be the oldest Watterson besides Frankie, so eventually they all made up and got happily married. As a result, this episode really showed how Louie and Jojo never got mad at each other despite all the conflicts, and we see this proven even more in the catfish, where we see Gumball and Darwin make a fake account on Elmore Plus of a woman called Muriel, so Louie can make friends. However, this fake friendship led to Louie trying to meet with her, which causes Jojo to think that he was cheating on her. But eventually, Gumball and Darwin prove that it was just them, and say that none of it would have happened if it wasn't for Jojo being controlling.
None of this would have happened if Granny Jojo wasn't so controlling. It's just I love you so much, Louie. I didn't realize I was stifling you. I'm sorry. Come here.
Now, Jojo actually taking accountability for her actions just shows how healthy this relationship is, which is always key to success. But Mr. and Mrs. Robinson lack every single trait that we've talked about in this video, as this married couple is the definition of a complicated relationship. And honestly, these two would be better off divorced. Now, if you're a fan of Gumball, you know by now that in basically most of their appearances, they are always seemingly toxic to each other, and we rarely see any affection between them. I mean, we literally see Mr. Robinson call his own marriage a literal mistake in The Boss.
It's just a little mistake, Margaret. Everyone makes mistakes. Our marriage is a permanent reminder of that.
Along with this, we also find out in the same episode that Rocky is their son, and he's only a mistake to them, which puts hating your son on the list of charges when it comes to their horrible relationship. However, Mr. Robinson isn't the only evil one, as in The Wicked, we learn how evil Mrs. Robinson truly is, from blaming Gumball and Darwin for something they didn't do, to her literally causing Darwin to suffocate. Along with this, we also see Gumball and Darwin find an old scrapbook of Mrs. Robinson, and they learned that she's always been evil, and she had burnt schools in the past, along with ripping innocent children's teddy bears. Yeah, it's clear that these three factors alone make the relationship hands down the worst and most toxic in the show. But feel free to comment below on which relationships you think are the best and worst, and make sure to click the video on screen, as I'm sure you'll like it.